we are fighting against the climate change, and we are champions of this fight.
The gravity of the time is such that every new avenue of peace, no matter how dimly discernible, should be explored. Never before in history has so much hope for so many people been gathered together in a single organization. You will provide a great share of the wisdom, of the courage, and the faith which can bring to this world lasting peace for all nations and happiness and well-being for all men.
Javier Guerra, it's so nice to see you in our show, Titans of Nuclear. Delighted to see you again.
Yeah, very nice to see you, and a pleasure to speak with you, and especially for this interview. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you.
You're the CEO of Technotome. Can you tell me how big Technotome is? How many people do you employ?
Yeah, right now we are around 900 people all around. Have presence in 10 countries. So we have people speaking 10 different languages. And we work basically in 23, 25 countries every year. So we are quite international company. We work basically in nuclear, around close to 90% of our business is in nuclear, and 10% is other things, as aeronautics, electrical sector in general. We are and we're expanding outside nuclear. Basic for us is that, our capacities that we grew up on nuclear, we are able to export to other sectors. And in fact, coming from nuclear is very well appreciated in sectors where knowledge, technology, and safety is an issue. So from nuclear, we manage complex information, technology, and safety is number one for us. So many other industries where safety, for instance, aeronautics, safety is very important. Coming from nuclear is a plus for this company. So we are opening our capacities to other industry with the advantage of we learn in nuclear.
This is interesting because there is a lot of discussion about other industries entering nuclear, so that we are more open to general heavy industry. And what you are doing is the opposite. You are using your capacities in nuclear to be more advantageous for other industry, and you have plenty of advantages, like you have disciplined engineers who know how to work with the rules, who know how to work with plenty of regulations, and this is appreciated by other industries. That's great.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. Because many times nuclear people is having kind of issue to move outside nuclear because of the number of rules and the culture that we learn. But for other cases, is an advantage of this culture that we learn from the beginning in nuclear. It can be used for many other sectors. And this is good for the people working in nuclear. We can do many other things.
Mm-hmm. And how was it for you? Because actually you did not study nuclear, you studied maritime engineering. And then all your career you spent in nuclear. Was it easy to enter our sector? Did you have to learn a lot?
Well, I tell you that I had to learn a lot, but everybody needs to learn a lot. Today, everybody needs to learn. I'm naval engineer, but I took the specialty of nuclear propulsion. Okay, so from the beginning, I was coming, naval engineer, but with the specialty of nuclear. Then the basic engineering was good, what I learned in the university. But I have to learn really a lot of things. And one of the good things of this industry, and I tell you, all the young people, when they think which sector they want to go, I always say it's not so important the sector where you start to work, because what is important is how you specialized in something that you like, because it's very important that you love the work you do. That's something exciting for you. So nuclear, one of the good things we have is that we teach people to do things. And we teach very well. We are very good training people on a different task. Many of the specialties we have in nuclear are very well appreciated in other sectors. So I keep telling the young people hesitating to come to nuclear, don't think it's nuclear. Because it's maybe ending in 10 years or 15 years in Spain. Think what you like to do. Is a good place to learn and to advance in your professional skills, yes or not? That's the question, not the sector. And we are good sector training people.
But then you have this talented engineer that is coming, maybe not necessarily with the nuclear background. You need to train him with all this number of rules, the discipline, as we mentioned already. Does Technotome take it into consideration? Do you have any special formation training, or you prefer to recruit the engineers who have the nuclear background?
Well, it depends, because Technotome is having basically 3 or 4 orientations for the people. One is clearly oriented around the operation of power plants. And those guys are having a common training where we explain the basic functioning of a nuclear power plant. Then you learn all the systems, how it works, and the physics behind, and the engineering behind everything. And this is taking like 9 months. This is a basic training for all the people working at Technotome. Then the people that will be becoming professors, they will be instructors for others. They will take 2 more years before they start to be instructors, and then they learn more in depth about the operation of a power plant. Other people is moving to engineering. So you have many specialties: instrumentation, control room design, simulation. There are many specialties, but we want all of them to understand very well the operation of a power plant, because the basic of at the heart of our knowledge is the operation of the power plant. So everybody at Technotome knows a lot about the operation of the power plants, and from there we start to go to the specialty that they will be deploying in their professional career. And other people is more related with materials and or non-destructive examination or test. So those people are more, directly going to the specialty of they will be performing with some training on the operation, but is lower. And then we have people that's working directly for aeronautics, and they go different paths. But one of the things we want to that everybody that's working in nuclear, they understand what they do, they understand what a nuclear power plant is, and they understand how to operate a nuclear power plant and all the risk associated. So it's very important to understand that what you do is having an impact in the safety, and therefore you need to understand the global functioning or working of a nuclear power plant to be able to work there.
So you already mentioned several directions in nuclear that the Technotome is taking. You mentioned operation, you mentioned teaching operators, you mentioned general engineering. Aeronautics is not nuclear, so it's not like directly nuclear fleet related, so we can maybe skip it. Maybe you can say a little bit more about the tasks that Technotome is doing for the nuclear fleets.
Yeah, well, we are around the operation of the power plant. If you think in a power plant how it is operated, you have a crew, the people that's doing all the operation of the power plant. Then you have the assets, the different components of the power plant that you need to ensure that they are working correctly and they are safe to operate after an outage. And then you have all the processes that are going there. So we have services around the training of the people. So we improve the performance of the crew operating the nuclear power plant. Then we have also the people that's taking care of the control of all the processes. And there we have people working basically on instrumentation, control room design, and all the simulation and the digital tools. We are working a lot on developing digital tools to improve the operation of the different processes that are going on in the power plant. For instance, we were setting complete control rooms. 8 of the nuclear power plants that are working now in China, in operation in China, are going with our control room that was designed and delivered by Tecnatom. So we are going from there to just making some maintenance and different tasks, licensing of new reactors. And then the other area of activity is just ensuring, as I said, that the components are safe, are in good condition to operate after an outage. So during the outages, we have all the people that's making sure everything is all right, making tests, non-destructive examination, and different controls, so we can make sure that the operation will be with no problem. And that's the 3 areas. And then we have another area that's since we have to develop equipment for our services, we also are able to provide this as a business. We sell equipment to others. Okay. So basically, that's what we do, and we do that in all the world, all the different power plants in operation, in construction, and now we are starting also to move in the small modular reactors and do things with the companies that are starting this business, the small modular reactors that are something very interesting for the future of nuclear.
I remember that part of your career you spent in in-service inspection. We had a little chat about this already before. Maybe you could explain us a little bit what is in-service inspection and why it's so important for the good operation of the power plant.
Yeah, well, the in-service inspection is the aim is to ensure the structural integrity of all the components. As you know, in a power plant, we have a lot of components under pressure and high temperature conditions. So you need to make sure that they are the integrity of those components is kept during all the life of the power plant in operation condition and in accident condition. So that's difficult to explain in just 1 minute, but basically we ensure the accident, if happens, the components will resist an accident, and also in the normal operation they will have no problems. So the safety of the power plant is really linked to the in-service inspection, to make sure that if any problem is there, you detect it, and then you are able to repair it before this becoming a real accident.
So can you give us some examples, maybe? Which components undergo the in-service inspection, and what are the methods of inspecting?
Yeah, well, all the pipes of the power plant, all the piping from primary, even the secondary piping, all the heat exchangers, from the steam generators to condensers to the different heat exchangers. You need to make sure that all the tubes are tight enough, so you don't have a leakage from one side to the other, from primary to secondary. For instance, steam generators. A typical nuclear power plant is having more than 200 kilometers of tube. Those tubes are around 19 millimeters in diameter, so it's a lot of tubes to
You really don't want to look for this one tiny hole.
Exactly, and you are looking for very, very tiny cracks, and really tiny. And I don't know if you have the experience, but even if you have with your eyes a tube with this crack, you don't see it, and you need to detect
my
it.
sight is not so good. I prefer to prevent the holes.
Exactly. You need to have the good material and chemistry, so you don't have corrosion, cracking going on in your steam generators. And I tell you that in my experience, the materials change really fantastic. I think we have very much improved steam generators now, for instance, than the ones we had when I started my career. So the maintenance is far lower, the safety is much better, and also the methods to detect basically eddy current and ultrasonics to detect this cracking are much, much better. So everything is improved a lot if you look at it back in the past. Better materials and better methods. So for sure, the safety of the power plants is much better, and the performance is also much better.
So right now, we are not really able to say that the plants built 40 years ago will last 40 or 50 years, because these are not the same plants, because we have better methods, we have better components right now. If we replace a steam generator, it's going to work much better and for longer than the model that was used 40 years ago.
Yeah, that's one of the points that the people that are speaking about nuclear, they don't realize when they say that's a very old plant because it's having 40 years. And it's not true. It's having 40 years the vessel, it's having 40 years maybe the primary piping that, this is, and then steam generators are replaced. Condensers are replaced. A lot of the piping, cabling, instrumentation, a lot of the things in the power plant have been replaced, but new and better ones. So the safety of the power plant, when they have achieved the 40 years of operation, many cases the safety is much better than at the beginning of the operation, because you have better components, you understand much better the evolution of the power plant, and the operation of the power plant. So this knowledge and better components and all the investments that were made during the life of the power plant are arrived to the situation where after 40 years, you have a better power plant than the one you have at the moment zero. And this is a reality. Yeah.
Okay, so when we enter the long-term operation, as many plants are going to face it in the near future, which components are expected to be replaced, and which updates are really necessary for a plant to operate longer than this expected 40 years?
Yeah, well, I think that's something that is very well known. I mean that all the component behavior in the power plant, because we have the experience of the operation in all the world. Most of the PWERs replace the steam generators, so we have new ones. It was an issue some years ago, but now most of the power plants and the remaining ones will be replacing in the next future. So this component is clear. A lot of power plants replace condensers and some heat exchangers, but this is something that already was done before arriving to the 40 years because of performance, not performance and safety, not because of arriving to the 40 years. Arriving to the 40 years means that you need to do some special inspections to make sure that your power plant is operating in good condition. So you go deeper in the knowledge of the state of the power plant, and you need to demonstrate your power plant is in good condition. This is a clear thing you have to do before arriving to the 40. Another area of interest is all the cabling. You need to make sure that your cables, power plant is having a lot of cables. You need to make sure that the condition of your cabling is correct. You need to make sure that also the instrumentation, control room, there is a roadmap in many power plants to digitalize some of the instrumentation and some of the systems you have in the control rooms. Other areas, I don't think is such a big investment for a power plant to go beyond the 40 years. Arriving to the 60 is very well established what you have to do. And the investment is clearly far lower than replacing the power plant by other nuclear or by renewables or by any other mean. The best investment to maintain your capacity is clearly to extend the life of the nuclear power plants. And this is something that all the engineers know.
For Spain. I think it was demonstrated for Spain by MIT at one point that actually if you want to decide which addition of capacity that is decarbonized is the cheapest one, the conclusion was let's keep the power plants operating, the nuclear power plants operating instead of building solar, instead of building other sources of energy. This is what makes it the cheaper. And even for such a sunny country, for a country that has very good conditions for renewables, this is still true. This
study from MIT is very interesting, but it's because it's establishing that it's true that the solar photovoltaic is very cheap now. But to install the solar photovoltaic, you need to have some storage. Storage is not inexpensive; it's quite expensive. And then you need to add some complexity to the network, to the electricity net. Then moving from beyond the 30% of renewables is beginning to be very, very expensive. And arriving to 100% is almost not possible now. You need gas or something to ensure that you will have always electricity in all the things where you use electricity. And this study was very interesting because the best way for Spain, from a technical, from economical, and I will say also from a sustainable point of view, is to extend the life of the nuclear power plants to 60 years, at least to 60 years, to laminate the investments that you need to do in renewables. In 20 years, we should expect that the technology will evolve for renewables, so you will have better solar, better aeolic, and better, well, whatever you decide is the technology that is better for your country. So clearly it makes sense to extend the life to the power plants. And it's a pity that Fessenheim, for instance, what happens to Fessenheim is not well, you know, it's a decision that was made in France. I respect, but I think that other thing could be done without harming the environment, without harming nothing. It will be, you know, the lowest cost solution to extend the life of the power plants.
Exactly. So can you tell me a little bit more maybe about Spanish fleet? How many reactors do you have? Maybe what is the average life? Some basic information for our listeners.
Yeah, we have 7 reactors now in operation, and the expected continuity of those reactors is clear between 2027 and 2035. That means in 8 years, an average of 1 reactor per year will be taking off from the grid. So in the 35, we will have no nuclear reactors in Spain. The average life will be around 45 years, depends a little, but around 45 years. And well, still, you know, the ideal will be 60 years, because this way you will have more money for decommissioning of the dismantling and decommissioning to take care of the spent fuel. And right now they are struggling because the calculation that was made at the beginning of the life of the power plants was not good today. And the new estimates are that, we need more money to do all those tasks. So if we extend the life 15 more years, we will have, the possibility to get this money out from the nuclear power plants. So everybody will be happy. Lower investment, more money to the commissioning, because the cost of the commissioning is the same with a 45 years or 60 years life of the power plants. Then I think it's clear. To me, it's clear that the decision in the future will be making some revision in Spain, and I hope that in France it's clear that the extension of the life of the power plants is the way to go. And we'll see Germany what happens when they have no nuclear and no coal, what they do. Yeah.
You're the president of Spanish Nuclear Society, and so you are probably working on this topic quite a bit. Can you tell me if Spanish Nuclear Society is trying to maybe take some actions in this respect? Are you trying to convince the decision makers or maybe the public?
Yeah, well, the mission of the Nuclear Society in Spain is to promote the knowledge of the science and the technology, nuclear technology in the society. That's basically our mission. We have the Foro Nuclear, that's the equivalent to Foratom, and Foro Nuclear is in charge of...
So it's the nuclear lobby.
Lobby
it's
activities.
The society is the lobby.
Yeah, because in France it's a mix. La Société Nucléaire Française, they have a mission that is lobby, it's a kind of lobby, and it's also a nuclear society.
There is also another organization in France, it's called GIFEN,
exactly.
which is more the association of the industries already. So there's also not only one organization. But in Spain you have clear the distinction between Foro Nuclear and...
That's correct. So the relation with the politicians and administration is more Foratom who is doing that. And we are more oriented to expand this knowledge of nuclear, because knowing nuclear is accepting nuclear. And what we have found in many situations, many polls that we made in the past, is that the informed people usually tend to accept far more nuclear than people that is just learning from the newspapers. So we are trying to do all kind of activities from Facebook and Twitter, and also we have several pages on the web, nuclear magazine that's also open to the society with different explanation, from the very technical explanation to very something that is not very deep technically, so it's made to everybody understand what we do in nuclear. And we have also some activities to attract the young generations. So we work quite a bit with in the university to make us interesting for the young people. That's very, very important for the future of nuclear, to be attractive. And we are competing more and more because the engineers, we have to take into account the engineers are demanded by the banks, by the Deloittes, by the Ernst & Young, by everybody wants engineers now. And we are competing with other sectors, not with the typical sectors that we compete before, but many others. So we need to make things to attract young people, and that this is something that we are taking a lot of actions to go to the university and speak with the people and tell this type of things. Don't think in the sector, think in what you love to do and how to improve your profession. And nuclear, we are very good at teaching people. And it's true that we are expending a lot of money teaching the people and training the people to do their tasks. And we do, after that, we do also services. We have different workshops and different ceremonies and things to make our activity more interesting to the people and to our associates.
You said one very interesting thing, that actually it's very important to ask yourself what you love, because this is what is unique in nuclear. You can be an engineer, you can, make your bread on realizing your identity. You believe in something, you believe that this energy is clean, that you help provide a source of electricity that is not harming the climate. And this is one of the assets that we really should use in nuclear industry to take care of thinking about this, of our identity as employees.
Yeah, I think that's important to explain our employees and the people, professionals working in nuclear, that what we do is good for the society. That clearly we are not making any harm. On the contrary, we are providing a part of the of the chain of producing electricity, of producing energy for the society. That this is a very basic need of our society. That nuclear is not producing CO2. So we are fighting against the climate change, and we are champions of this fight. We are not just part of it. We are champions on the fight against the climate change. That is one of the problems that the society and the world is facing. And what we are doing is helping that our sons, our grandsons, will have a better world. And this is, to me, it's motivating. And I'm sure that the young people wants to make sure that what they do is something that is helping the others. And what we do is really clearly helping the society and the world.
Mm-hmm. We met for the first time on COP25 when we were supporting the representation of nuclear in this conference that is rather focused on ecology, environment. How did you feel in there coming from nuclear industry? With clearly a clean energy among all these people focused on ecology and environment?
Well, when I went there the first day, I expected, because we had a booth, so I expected some reaction of the people against nuclear. And what we found that everybody that was coming to speak with us, most of them, they agree that what we do is not so bad. So when you explain what are the good things, the bad things, because everything is having these positive and strong points and weak points. And we have a lot of strong points to show. When you speak with the people, everybody except one that was very, very against, but not because of the civil. It was against because of the nuclear, the military part of the nuclear.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That was a concern for it. It was a woman, but the rest, speaking about the industry, nuclear industry, I found that it was to me it was very nice to learn that we can speak with everybody and they accept when they enter a discussion that is open discussion, not just your idea on this is bad and I don't know why this is bad. Mm-hmm. And another thing I really appreciate a lot was to meet the young generation of the nuclear society from Japan. Well, you was there also. People from the US. That guy looked more than from Greenpeace than from nuclear. You remember the guy with the bar? I forgot the name, but it was very funny guy. And he's a nuclear guy, and he's having this mind is nuclear because he's an environmentalist. So having those young people from all the world was also a very encouraging thing for me and very interesting. The COP25 was not a success, was more on the contrary globally, because the agreements were very weak. And I think we need to convince the politicians that the nuclear is part of the solution. It's not a problem, it's part of the solution. And politicians are there to fix problems, not to create problems. And some politicians, I think, that are more in the side of creating problems than solving problems. We have a problem with the CO2 emissions, and nuclear is clearly part of the solution.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and COP25, I think it was not the ultimate place to convince people, because the representatives of the countries, they already had some ideas in mind that were prepared by their teams. So even if you talk to them and you convince them personally, they will not change their decision on the forum. So what is very important is the general public education, which you're doing in nuclear society. And this indirectly also influences the decision makers after, because these are the voters, these are the citizens who are choosing their representatives. So clearly it's very interesting. Maybe let's come back a little bit to Technatom a little bit more, because you are the person that actually spent all your career in Technatom. So in the course of several decades, you could see the company developing. Ultimately, you are the CEO of the company, so you take the full responsibility for what it is right now. But you could also see the nuclear industry changing. Do you have any feelings of what are the differences between the nuclear industry when you joined it and nuclear industry right now in 2020?
Yeah, well, when I joined nuclear, it was high-tech, was perceived by the people. Myself, when I started, as a high-tech industry, an industry where you can develop your world career, because we'll be there forever. And it was, high-tech, new technology.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think the perception of the people is like more a technology that's, in the last days. This is, of course, I think it's a mistake, but this is the perception of the people, is in the last days. And also the electricity sector is having economic problems all around. The price of the electricity is quite low, and all the companies are struggling. So it's a sector now that is in transformation. I think it's in transformation, and we will see an electricity sector that will be more oriented to the services, not only providing electricity, but providing also services and other activities that are around the energy, but not just providing electricity, but managing many other things, managing how to integrate the production of the people. If the people decides to produce an electricity, how to integrate all this in a network. So they are becoming like managers of a network, where they have some big systems of nuclear, for instance, to produce the base electricity, so that they maintain the stability. But they are kind of managers and dealers of electricity, not just I produce the electricity and put electricity in your house. It's more than that. It's more complex, and this transformation will be done, is being done right now. And I hope that at the end will be like many other sectors. We need to transform. And if we go to nuclear, I think the nuclear technology is here to stay. I don't expect nuclear technology is something that will be passing away, and those are moments, the technology, because there is a physical reality after a technology. The physical thing is there, will not change. And using this physical reality in our benefit, the humankind is always been using the nature in his benefit, and we will be using the nuclear. We need, as an industry, to change our technology, to evolve, to be more flexible. We are coming from a world where nothing changed. You see the design of the nuclear reactor we have now in operation is technology from the 80s. This is quite old technology. And during many years, we didn't work a lot to evolve this technology. In the last 10 years, this thing changed. And I see that all the companies in nuclear understood that if we don't change, if we don't be as a world sector, an innovative sector, we change things. We move to new technologies where safety, performance, the economics will be vastly improved. We will not be accepted, but not just because of the population is against nuclear. It's because the economics will not be there for us. So.
And as you mentioned before, we need to compete with other sectors for employees. And the more innovative the sector is, the more cutting-edge technologies are implemented. This really is desirable by talented engineers, people that can really push the industry forward.
Yeah, I agree that we need to be more innovative to attract talent. And if you attract talent, you are more innovative. So it's a kind of feedback from one thing to the other. But these new companies, especially, I really love the situation in the United States with the small startups, because they are doing things that the big companies, Westinghouse or Framatome or even Rosatom, well, all the big companies doing nuclear, they are very classical companies, and they start to understand that they need to change, and they need to change because they saw that it's possible to develop new technologies. And all those small startups, especially in the US, they are creating new technologies that, and the small modular reactor concept is something that is coming here to stay. And hopefully it will change the cost and the global perception of nuclear and even the safety of the nuclear power plants that are being developed right now with these new technologies is clearly improved. I see a future if we are able to bring these new technologies to the market. And to bring these new technologies to the market, we need to change all the industrial chain all the supply chain in nuclear, including the administration. I think the administration needs to understand that despite it's a nuclear technology, if it is safe, you don't need all the burden of the rules that we have now. So, and also some international rules. If you, for instance, sell a plane in a Boeing in the United States, basically in France or in Spain is the same plane, same rules. But if it's a nuclear power plant, the one that was designed in France and accepted by all the rules, the RSM in France, you go to the US, it's a different rule, so you pass again all the process. This is unacceptable. I think that we need our authorities in all the world to come to a global set of rules. I understand that there may be some specifics in this country, but the 90%, for instance, of the rules should be common for all the countries. And this will be also making the possibility to build fleets. This is the success of EDF in France, is they were able to create a production supply chain and a fleet. So they were able to repeat a model. If we are not able to repeat a model because the EPR in UK, in Finland, and in France is different, are different machines, we are dead. We need to be able to arrive to this concept of fleet and be able to repeat because there is no sense that and we are in Europe, and Finland, France, and UK, you need to repeat everything. That's no sense.
Exactly. I have a tricky question to you. If you could choose between starting your career when you started and starting it now in this transformative period, as you mentioned before, what would you prefer?
Well, I cannot imagine starting again, but it's well, when you are, there is one thing that's important to understand. This one, you are young, you see the world in a different way than when you have a lot of experience. And this is very fortunate because when you are young, you don't see all the problems. When you are much older, you see a lot of problems. But I think there is room in Europe. I see companies as Framatome. Framatome is a company that's hiring people right now. It's hiring, I don't know how many, but maybe hundreds of people each year. So they have plans, they have future, and look at other sectors. What will happen with the car industry in Europe? With all these electrical cars that are coming, what will happen with the German car industry, high-tech industry? But will be able to adapt to the new electrical car, or will be in the future China who will be and US who will be leading the electrical car? So what do? You don't go to the car industry because who knows what will be happening with the aeronautics? Now they are in a big problem, in a big crisis. So aeronautics is not good either. Oil and gas? Oh no, because they are burning. So you start sector by sector, and well, maybe Facebook. Who knows? They are in troubles now. Also. All the sectors will be transforming in the future, and I will, if I would be now thinking, I will think what I said you, what I love to do, and what is the best place for me to grow as a professional, and where I will get a good training, and maybe I will be going to a nuclear company.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned SMRs several times during our talks. You mentioned that Spain and Tecnatom specifically is working a little bit on this. Can you give me some insight? What are you doing there, and how are you contributing to this growing trend?
Yeah, we are working now with a couple of small companies. One of them is NuScale, that is one of the more advanced small modular reactors in the US. We are working in the control room design and basically around the control room, and also training for future. Okay, preparing the training for the future operators of the NuScale reactors. And we are doing similar things with other company that's X Energy. That's a smaller one that's not so advanced in the licensing of the design. But it's also an interesting company. So what I know from these companies, they are very innovative, they are flexible, and they are really pushing to get their design approved and commercialized. So they are really pushing for that and getting money from the market. That's important. They get funds. They have funds. I don't know which one will succeed, because there are many. Not all of them will succeed. But from this, around 20 small companies working on different designs, I'm sure that 2 or 3 will be finally successful and will deploy their systems on the market.
Mm-hmm. So you are working on SMRs, if I'm not mistaken, also on accident tolerant fuel.
Well,
is it something that you think could be incorporated in the future reactors and replacing the sintered fuel, or it's rather like a nuance that is still very far away from deployment?
Well, I think accident tolerant fuel is something that will arrive to the market very soon. It's already in the trial phase in some power plants. Here it depends not only in the technical and commercial part, that I think is very, very attractive. You improve the safety, you improve the performance, and this is attractive. But to achieve the real economics on that, I think that also the authorities need to understand that those accident tolerant fuels improve the safety of the power plant, so they can reduce some other costs. So if you have something that is really good as fuel, maybe you can reduce other things. So you compensate the investment to include your accident tolerant fuel in your normal supply. So if the authorities understand they should help the operators to make a world review of the safety, because they have this accident tolerant fuel, I'm sure this will be it will replace completely all the standard design. If not, I don't know the percent, but it will be a percent only of the cases where you will replace the existing design by the new ones. Eventually, with time, all of them will replace, but the speed it will depend a lot on the economics, and the economics depends on the authorities helping to improve the ruling about that.
Mm-hmm. From everything that you're saying, it seems to me that the real part of nuclear that has to develop and transform in this moment of transformation of all the energy systems are the actual regulators, because the companies have ideas, the companies are developing their technologies in better rate right now, but in order to deploy them, the heavy regulation and slow processes are an obstacle for almost every part of innovation in nuclear industry.
Well, I regret to say that, but it's true that the regulator is a very important part of the industry. That's regulating the industry. So clearly, even if we do a lot of technological things and we do very fancy innovations, if the regulator is not changing their mind, I think will be difficult to really develop new things. So we need to harmonize the regulations in the world. That will help really a lot to reduce the cost. This is not making something weaker. Just do the same everywhere. This will be the aeronautic companies already did that, and they succeed. So why not the nuclear? But I think the politicians in the government need to understand that and to put this as an objective to the regulatory bodies, because I don't think today this is an objective of. They have some meetings and they speak, but they really don't do any action. To do these actions, they need to be driven from the agreements at the political level. And I hope that at least in Europe, we will be able to have a common ruling for all Europe. That would be fantastic, and we are not there.
Like European Union for nuclear industry.
For the nuclear industry would be why, you are in the EPR. I'm sure that in Finland you have some regulation, in France and in UK it's different. So that's crazy for the people working on that. And what is the common sense on having this different regulation? It's not a real need to have this different regulation. It's just because they are coming from different ideas and they came to different regulations. But
that's the thing. They are not better or worse. They're just different.
It's different, exactly. So having something in common is not something worse. maybe something better even. But just by having the same rules everywhere, this will help, I don't know which percent, a really big percent of the problem. And then also understanding that the new designs, if they improve the safety, it should be taken into consideration in the rules. So the rules are adapted to this better and safer component.
And as for Technatom, what are the exciting objectives and priorities for the nearest future?
Well, I think we are really embarked in the digitalization of our activities since 3 years ago. We are, and all this situation with the virus really push a lot the digitalization. So we are developing a lot of digital tools for training. That we were very lucky to have started 3 years ago. So with this pandemic, all the training activities passed with no problem. And we are moving to the knowledge management of the companies with complex knowledge and safety as something important. We are very active in the US. A lot of companies, nuclear companies in the US are starting to use our digital training tools. So this is an area that's very interesting for us. And the other is the digitalization of all the operations. So we are creating tools to help the operators to better operate their power plants. Those are the main two directions in technology. And in the market, we are working more and more internationally and trying to expand to other sectors. Aeronautic is clearly one sector that is of our interest, but it's also interesting for us, the oil and gas. And all the renewables, even the renewables for us, is a market that is growing. Nuclear is not something, it should be complementary with renewables. I think both are part of the energy mix of the future, and we are working also on renewables as well.
Okay, thank you very much for this talk, Javier. It was a pleasure to have a chat with you.
Well, thank you, Jadwiga, and I hope that next time you come to Spain, you visit Technatom. You couldn't last time.
Okay, putting this to my calendar. Thanks.
Good.
And initiate at least a new approach to the many difficult problems that must be solved in both private and public conversation if the world is to shake off the inertia imposed by fear and is to make positive progress toward peace.